who is not a panelist to mute yourself and also take your video off. This is just to help us, so to avoid any additional interruptions. I don't know, Bola, whether you are hearing us. I don't think Bola is hearing us.
Anyway, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Lovely. Yeah, if you can kindly take your video off. It's just to avoid
interference. It's off.
Is it? Okay, okay, we're just
taking a photograph.
that is weird. Thank you, Bola. So we'll just keep reminding people to mute and also take their video off. So switch their video off so that we can have some proper, we don't have any interferences. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first panel discussion, and I hope you'll all enjoy it. So we are going to have a very lively, hopefully a very lively panel discussion. And at a point, we will we'll do a Q&A session where if you have any burning questions or comments or contributions, you're more than welcome to do this. This is one of those weird times that we're not doing face-to-face meetings as we are all used to. Now we're all in a virtual world. So a little bit of the housekeeping rule really is about our technology. We are hoping that our technology will be sustained, but as you can imagine, sometimes this doesn't happen. So apologies in advance. I'm going to start this, I'm going to kick this off. I want to introduce myself. You probably all know me if you've been on the website. So I'm Susan Ozer. My professional background, very briefly, is I'm a neurodevelopmental pediatrician working in the NHS for over several years. And I'm also the founder and CEO of this exciting enterprise, one-to-one and mentoring network. I'll hand over to so I'm your host, and I'll hand over to my co-host, Samantha, to introduce herself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I am Samantha Prosser. My background is in finance, HR and operations, and I'm a business consultant. And for one-to-one, I am the Chief Operations Officer, which generally means I've got my fingers in pretty much everything that's going on. There's nothing that I'm not involved in. So there you go. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to this afternoon.
Yeah. Okay, so can I remind our guests to please switch your video off and make sure you mute yourselves, just to avoid any interferences. Inyang, please.
Hi, I'm Inyang Takon. I'm also a consultant pediatrician working with Susan at the Eastern North Hertfordshire Trust. And I'm one of the trustees and key partners of One-to-One.
Thank you. Marvin?
Hi guys, my name is Marvin Rotermund. I currently volunteer as a public engagement lead for One-to-One. My background is I'm a senior auditor for a certification body where I work in the compliance and a risk sector. So hi guys, I'm looking forward to this engagement. It's nice to meet you all as well.
Thank you, Marvin. Ruth?
Hi, my name is Ruth Amenu. I'm a business consultant and information technology consultant. I am involved in One-to-One as a trustee and a key partner, and I'm really looking forward to this session. I hope it will be beneficial for all those of you who've tuned in. We've got 25 participants already.
Thank you, Ruth. So can I remind everybody again to unmute and turn your video off if you are not part of the panel. Thank you, and thank you for joining us, guests. Yasmin?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yasmin Leons, and I'm a consultant obstetrician at Eastern North Hertfordshire NHS Trust. I also work alongside Susan, and hope you have a very engaging session this afternoon. I also share a governance role in the One-to-One mentoring. So, thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. I'll hand over to Sam. Over to you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is we just want to kick this off, and this is just questions for our panelists. which hopefully will give people some understanding about sort of who you are and why you're. So I'd like to know, what are your experiences around mentoring outside of one-to-one? And also, why did you join one-to-one? And I'll pose that, I think I'll get In-Yang, if you can kick that off for us, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. So before I come to my experience in one-to-one, my experience is outside. So as I mentioned, I'm a consultant pediatrician, and I have been doing mentoring initially informally for several years, and I'm quite happy to say that I've had so many of my previous clinicians who have mentored also working with me as consultant pediatricians in the same trust. I've mentored lots of young people, lots of doctors, a lot of doctors who have advanced in their career, but also became a formal mentoring champion for the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health. So I went through formal mentoring training under the Royal College to become what we call a mentoring champion, and I do that for the department alongside with another colleague. So we've delivered training on mentoring to our local clinicians, and we're hoping to widen that and build on that. I'm also a mentoring champion for what we call the medical training initiative, where a lot of overseas doctors come to the UK to train in pediatrics. And a lot of them, as you would understand, are coming from countries where they have to adapt to the culture in the UK. So again, under the Royal College, I'm one of the champions on that program, mentoring training initiative for the medical training initiative, which I take a role on for the East of England. In terms of other people outside my career, I enjoy talking to people a lot. So, and I've mentored lots of young people who in various careers and in various professions. And it's been something that I like doing, talking to people and finding out what they're doing and supporting them in ways I can, or building networks. So I'm quite happy about a lot of the young people I've mentored outside, although that mainly informally, but I've done that outside my medical career, and I'm quite happy about, the career they've gone into. So mentoring is something I'm very passionate about because it got me to where I am in some ways, and I wish I had more, but it's something I'm really keen on supporting young people about. Thank you, Sam.
Okay. Ruth?
Thank you, Sam. So I'm not a doctor. I'm in information technology. I came into mentoring in a number of ways. At the very beginning of my career, I worked for a charity, and 6 months after I joined the charity, I was asked to run a big program to implement a new IT system. I had no precedence, and it was quite overwhelming. And I walked out of the meeting after the appointment. My CEO followed me into my office, and she said, "Ruth, how are you feeling?" And I said to her, "Denise, I feel challenged, but I'm also overwhelmed." And she said, "Don't be overwhelmed, feel empowered." But on the back of that conversation, she came back to me again a week later, and she said, "I've hired a mentor for you." And she basically hired a professional consultant to mentor me in information technology program systems integration. And it was an amazing experience. Till this day, it's 25 years since, and we're still in touch, and he continues to mentor me in different ways. But the benefit it gave me was amazing. And I found that as I started to grow in my career, there were many opportunities for me to informally mentor young people who were coming into the business, young women coming into technology, people that I met not necessarily at work, but in my daily interactions with people. And then about 3 years ago, I was approached by my alumni university in London, who had just launched a professional mentoring scheme. And they asked me it was a general survey asking our alumni who were interested. And I signed up. And so through that, they gave me professional training as a mentor, and I've been mentoring with him for the past 3 years. Alongside that, in my previous with my previous employer, they introduced mentoring as a way of developing women in technology. And I actually signed up to be mentored, but the lady who was running the program came to me and said, actually, Ruth, I think you're going to be a great mentor. So changed roles, and I ended up mentoring rather than being a mentee. I actually believe in mentoring. I have seen it work several times, and I'm very passionate about it because I think both formally and informally, it's a way to share your experiences, build up contacts, and also build people up in the community in a way and at a pace that works for them. With regards to one-to-one itself, Susan and I have been friends for years. Susan is the founder, and when she first told me about it, I was sitting at my kitchen table, and Susan called me and said, "This is what I'm thinking, sis. What do you think?" And I was so excited. I thought, this is really good because I'm doing it anyway for my alumni university. I'm doing it informally at work. What stops me from doing it as part of a community that is actually trying to deliver support within the community? And yeah, that's why I'm here, and that's my rationale. The reason why I really believe in mentoring, and the reason why I believe in one-to-one.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Marvin.
Hi guys. So my name is Marvin Rotermund. In regards to the industry I find myself in, I'm a senior auditor. I work for certification bodies, so I like to have the luxury to wear audit and different organizations on a global scale. So I'm mainly in risk and compliance. So my experience in regards to mentoring, I like to say I like to classify myself more as a mentee because I'm still being mentored, and I've benefited from it tremendously. I found myself on a path where I had the luxury where I had people who were able to make the resource available to myself, who have benefited off it, and that's brought me to where I'm at today. So in regards to mentorship, through that, through my engagements, through my clients, I came across an individual who introduced me to similar program in regards to where we talk to sixth formers in regards to industry experience. So I'm currently a guest speaker with an organization called Worktree. What we do is we go to schools and we engage with sixth formers in regards to how industry experience works out like. So in regards to experience-wise, when it comes to mentorship, that's where I have my experience. And I'm currently formalizing that, where I'm looking to get some more education and more formal education in regards to mentoring. So I like to classify myself as a mentee because currently I have a few mentors who are mentoring me, and I benefited off it tremendously. So I think why am I here? I just want to make it known to people viewing, to the local community, that there's so much benefits from being mentored, and being part of such a network gives people access to such resources, and I'm really readily available to make my experience known and how I've benefited off the journey. So regards to one-to-one, that's I currently also engage as a public engagement lead, where I support a volunteer with organization in regards to making the social media platform, keeping up to date, getting people to know what we're doing, and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, so yeah, that's my bit. So thank you guys also for tuning in. We really appreciate your time, and thank you. I hope this engagement will be beneficial for you guys as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Marvin. Okay, Jazz, over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm a consultant obstetrician, and I work at Eastern North Hertfordshire NHS Trust alongside Susan. So I've been a consultant since 2011. I came to the UK in 2000. So I'm from the Caribbean, from St. Lucia. So everybody keeps asking, you know, why am I here? Because of the gloomy weather, because we got sunshine in the Caribbean. But I've been here and did my training in obstetrics and gynecology. And at Eastern North Hertfordshire, I've been the clinical director for obstetrics for the last 5 years. So in my role and over the years, I've had to be a clinical supervisor for lots of trainees coming through the system, some who have been in substantive roles, others who have been in non-substantive roles, also doing being educational supervisors, being a consultant appraiser, and also doing a bit of consultant mentoring for some of my colleagues. And even throughout my career, I've had to have sessions on supporting BAME trainees as well, and some of them who have been in difficulty. And even throughout my career, thinking in the UK, I have not had a lot of mentoring myself, so it's something I've been quite passionate about, and think in my role with my experience, I could also obviously contribute to developing myself and also developing others. In terms of other mentoring projects, so a couple of years ago, I was alongside an Airbus Africa member where we set up a Fly With Me mentorship where we took some trophies to a school in Zambia to support students, and that project is still ongoing, and with also other satellite projects in the UK. So that's also been a bit of my experience outside of one-to-one. And I think why one-to-one? Well, Susan again told me about the idea, and I was fascinated because I thought it'd be a great opportunity to be part of someone's journey. And I think mentoring works both ways. There's values and benefits for the mentee in terms of their global development. And it's not just about their career pathways. It could be about team working. It could be about being assertive, team building, work-life balance. So there's a lot more to just, career building. So I thought it'd be a very good opportunity to be part of that. And also to be part of, a great network of very qualified, people of BAME or, Black, ethnic origin as we are, where clearly we're in a society where there are lots of disparities that face us, I think, as a race. And even so far, joining one-to-one, we've had lots of groups where we can post different opportunities, podcasts, other education opportunities for us to develop as well. So I think it's a bit of a symbiotic relationship, and I think it's an excellent opportunity. So thank you for everyone who's joined in, and I look forward to the journey. So thank you, Sam.
Okay, well, I'm going to hand this back to to Susan. But thank you so much. To people who have been, I'm just so thrilled. Just like they've so totally sold this, right?
Can you hear me?
I love this.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I must apologize for any technological mishaps. Ruth, you are the technology. I'm not putting all the blame on you, but thank you so much. You know what I'm going to do? I want to ask you, there's a secret question that I'm going to ask my panelists. And I'm saying it's a secret question because you weren't aware, we didn't warn you. But I want each of you to tell our audience one interesting thing that has happened to you this week. I want to kick it off with Yas. One interesting thing that has happened, and Samantha, you are included. One interesting thing, and it's about thinking on your feet. One interesting thing that has happened to you this week.
Well, what can I say? My laptop conked out on me yesterday.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and it was very interesting. My work laptop.
Thank you.
Yeah, some of my shared drives, and the IT people rang me and said, just to say your hard drive is a bit corrupted, so we might not be able to retrieve some of the data. Luckily, I had most of it backed up, but yeah, that was disappointing, but I had to accept the fact that I have to move on. So that was very interesting, yes.
Okay, fair enough. That's a bit of a stressful one.
Yes.
Inyang, what's one interesting thing that has happened to you this week?
Well, again, quite related to work is when things happen all at the same time. I had to go to work and do an emergency medical, and at the same time I got there, my daughter was not feeling well on the other side and called me, and then I was in a kind of dilemma as to what to do. But there I was at work and people were saying, oh, you have to go. And I said, well, I'm already here. I have to stay. But she was there feeling quite unwell. And I said, look, we'll need to get the neighbor. And I thought, why is everything happening at the same time? And there was something else that happened. And it was like three things. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get through this. But I had to stay and do the work and hope, and and just spoke to her, and she was able to wait until I got back. But with my heart in my mouth, thinking, what am I going to meet when I get home? And it's one of those tricky things that you're faced with, but you're not expecting it to happen, but you have to take a decision on your feet. Sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes it's not, but I'm happy it all ended well at the end. So not too nice, but interesting.
Yeah. Ruth?
So for those of you who don't know, I am currently in Zurich, and I was put under self-isolation when I arrived last week, Friday. So I'd been indoors all day since Saturday. And on Tuesday evening at about 8 o'clock, I decided, okay, it's okay. I'm going to go out for a run. So I wore my running gear. I opened the door. And as I opened the door, there were 3 blokes outside in masks. They were just about to press the bell when I opened the door. So I looked at them and they said, they are from the cantonal blah, blah, blah of Zurich. And they've just been notified that someone is here self-isolating and they wanted to come and check on me. So I said, oh, okay, it must be me. And then they wouldn't come in, and they said, well, they just ran me through the rules again, and that I cannot leave the premises until I've been here for 10 days. And so then I asked, can I go for a walk? They said no.
Yes, lucky you.
Lucky me, they left.
Lucky you.
And I went back and I did the run on the spot in the living room.
And yeah. Why not? Why not? Innovate. Marvin, thank you, Ruth. Marvin.
Okay, so Monday, I was taking my little girl to nursery, and my wife had to go to work as well. So after I dropped her at nursery, on my way back, I realized that I didn't take the house keys. My wife had left the house, and I had a meeting scheduled for 9:30. So I had to audit from the back seat of my car with a client. But bless me, I was using Microsoft Teams so I could blur my background so the client didn't know I was auditing. So that's right.
Oh, thank you. Sam, I'll do mine last.
So that's how it works.
Yes, that's how it works. Okay. It's your turn.
So, yeah, lucky you've kind of come to me. So I was just trying to think of, Celeste was interesting. So part of the things that I have to do being a Chief Operations Officer for one-to-one is I basically sometimes have to do some work with our developer on our website. So he had given me some stuff to do to put on some new associate partners, etc., etc. So this, bearing in mind, this is not my core job, right? So I'm having a go at this, and it was at night time, it's about midnight. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, I did it, and I dragged, and he told me you got to drag the photo and put it there. And then I came onto the front end, came back to switch it on to see what it was like, and it was like somebody's face was kind of like I chopped off, like half of someone's face, and the panic that was rising me, I thought, oh my goodness, like somebody's going to see this on the website, and how do I correct this? This was midnight, so I got to rush back, I had to log myself back on again, and somehow I figured it out. Somehow, I mean, the skills that I'm learning, I'm not kidding you, but yeah, that rising panic. So was it interesting? Well, yeah, it was for me.
Interesting but scary. Anyway, mine. So thank you. I know that a few people have joined us. And thank you for tuning in to our first panel one-to-one mentoring network. This is all mentoring and coaching. And we are a network that really believes in lifelong learning, in that the mentor learns and the mentee learns. There are opportunities also for what we call reverse mentoring. So you have a younger person mentoring an older person. There's also diversity mentoring, where you can and you have the opportunity to also mentor somebody who is completely coming from a completely different cultural background. So it's a network, and as part of it, that whole idea of lifelong learning is something that we highlight, we encourage. and the mentor gets something and the mentee gets something. So I hope all of you that are listening to us, or perhaps maybe you have not had the opportunity to be part of the live panel talk, but you might listen to the recording. I would encourage all of you to look at this. It's targeted at BAME. However, we encourage anyone at all from any background to join us, because we feel that as a BAME network, we are stronger when there's diversity, when there's also inclusion. I'm going to kick off with some very interesting, to explore the whole subject of mentoring in the BAME community, because this is what this is about, mentoring in the BAME community. I had, just in case somebody is watching us from outside the UK, BAME is Black and Minority Ethnic. Black and minority ethnic, because I've had that question being asked as to what is BAME. You know, we do tend to use BAME a lot, but some people might not know what BAME is. As part of our needs assessment, we did a very interesting survey. We explored Black professional women's awareness and experience of mentoring in the UK. And we actually got quite some very good responses. We had 86 response from personal backgrounds, and some also from higher education. And I would say that the responses were an eye-opener. And this discussion is really for us as panelists to explore the whole concept of mentoring and coaching in our communities. Is this something that is done? Is it something that is understood? I've had someone coming to me, and the questions have been something that was more around immigration. And I had to actually explore to find out where the mentoring could be, you know, where I could tag the mentoring and the coaching in, but not necessarily suddenly becoming an immigration lawyer. So it's talking about the understanding of, you know, that is me being a doctor, is somebody going to come to me and think that I'm going to be providing them medical advice? So this is some of the areas that we're going to be exploring. And I'll kick off with our survey. There was a question that we asked, and we said, we asked our respondents that have they had mentoring, formal mentoring training. Because you hear, oh yeah, somebody is mentor, this person is my mentor, oh, this person is my coach, this person is in church, or this person is at work and they are my mentor. So we thought, okay, what is mentoring? And so when we asked that question, have you had formal training in mentoring? 67% of our respondents said no. So I want to kick off. So if the panelists, if you can please unmute yourselves. I'm going to kick off this discussion about, you know, what is mentoring? What, you know, do we think that anybody needs to have training in mentoring at all? Can we start off with Ruth, please? And panelists, I'm happy for you to unmute yourself so that we can have a fluid discussion, yeah? Ruth, can we, because if we have 67% saying that they have not really had mentoring training, does that matter?
I think it matters to an extent. I think mentoring, training, coaching, teaching sometimes can be used synonymously, but they're not necessarily the same things. And therefore, having the training gives you the right context for the service you're trying to deliver. Now, I believe that mentoring is very different from coaching. Coaching is about doing training on a particular topic at a point. Mentoring, on the other hand, is about sharing experiences, enabling your mentee to come out of themselves, to grow. And it's about opening up network, opening up people's eyes to opportunities. And also it's about the individual being able to come to you with what their objectives are, and then being able to signpost them down that journey. And I think as a mentor, if you've had some degree of formal training, you're better equipped not to get into a telling situation and becomes more enabling. And I think that's what mentoring training tries to give you, to show you as a mentor how to be an enabler rather than a trainer, would be my view.
Okay, thank you. Can I remind our guests that if you are not part of the panel, if you can kindly mute yourself and also put your video off so that will just reduce the interferences. Thank you for joining. And please do engage by sending some, put the comments on there so that we can read the comments and then have a discussion around the comments. Thank you very much, Ruth, for this. Can I come to you, Yasmin, about this whole idea of training? Is it necessary? Because people feel that, this is my mentor, I go, it is informal. But is it something that we should really be actually doing some kind of formal training, even if it's a 2-hour online training, to understand what the principles of mentoring are?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Ruth. And yeah, I think there should be some degree of training. And because, yeah, if not, you don't know what you're doing. And I think for you to be of value to someone, who's going to be depending on you, they're going to be coming with their needs. They may have, certain objectives. And I think for you to be able to guide them in the right direction, or to be that facilitator, in terms of the long-term outcome, I think some form of training is required. Now, there are different levels of training, and it could be a short course, or it could be like, say, an hour, couple of hours. And some people, have different, interests, or they may want to do a diploma or go to higher degree. So I think there are different levels of mentoring. But I think as a basic package, I think if you want to offer sort of, formal mentoring to be of value to our mentees, I think, yeah, we should, I think we should. And I think we do use the term very loosely, as you rightly said, I have a mentor. I've done it before, similar, I would say, or my mentor, somebody who, one of my obstetricians, a couple of years ago, and I still refer to her as my mentor, as but I think in terms of formal context of one-to-one, yeah, I definitely think some training is required, yeah.
Thank you. Inyang, I know because we're quite close. I'm quite fortunate and blessed to be working with you, and you are my for a long time, actually, since I became a consultant, when I started my consultant career. And I know that you have done some mentoring training, being a mentoring champion at where we work. And what would you say that doing some kind of formal training provides?
Thank you, Susan. I think what I would say is that, one, it's very important. So I'll use myself for an example. Before I did the formal training, I initially thought, oh, I'm already doing this, so what are they going to be telling me during the formal training? And then when I went for the formal training, I actually realized that, no, there is a lot to learn. Because just like Jazz was saying, you sometimes mix up the role of mentor, coach, supervisor. Everybody kind of mixes it up and think we're all doing the same thing. No, it's not. And one of the things that became real to me is that we sometimes want to be prescriptive about what people should do. So once people come with a problem, we think we have the solutions, and we try to advise them and say, this is what you should be doing, X, Y, Z, this is how I think you should solve the problem. So we think in our minds that we already have the answers. Actually, that's not how to work with a mentee. So when you are mentoring someone, you have to take a step back, and you're trying to draw those things from them to actually see how you're almost like a path, just guiding them, but using tools that they have within themselves, which they don't recognize, but you're working alongside them to be able to get those skills out. They've got some of those answers. They don't know how to actually sieve the, things out to support themselves. And that's where you're coming up to. That's where you're bringing your own experiences, but you're doing it in a very different way from when you're telling them exactly what to do. So we had lots of practical sessions during my training where we had to actually mentor somebody with different problems. Or yes, hypothetical, but sometimes real problems they had. And we had to actually do this as a practical experience. And I really learned a lot. I learned a lot about the approach you take when you're doing that on a real life basis. And it was very different from the things I had been doing before, being that I had done a lot of informal mentoring myself before. So I came out of that having developed more experience in actually working with somebody who is a mentee and a mentor. And I learned a lot. So although I'm a mentor, I still learn a lot. So I even put myself here up as, look, I'm still learning as a mentor. So it is actually very important. We should not, actually up till now, I still continue to learn more, because I think learning more, even when you are a mentor, you're still learning more to improve your mentoring skills and capacity. So it's really important that we do it right, because at the end of the day, that person you've mentored through that journey will come out being better and be able to mentor others. And you want to show them how to do it well so that they can mentor other people coming behind them. So I really, despite years of informal mentoring, benefited a lot from that training. So it is very, very important.
Thank you very much. And Marvin, I want to come to you. From my experience, I've had people confusing mentoring and coaching. You know, they come to you wanting to be coached, and then they might get mentored, or they come to you wanting to be mentored, and yet their goals are based around coaching. I don't know if you've had that sort of experience around how you have approached people's expectations of what you feel, through your training, and your experience, what mentoring is. How have you managed people's expectations when they've come to you as a mentor, as a coach, and their expectation is completely different?
Okay, cool. Thanks for the question. Hi guys. So from my perspective, regards to scenario based, what my experience regards to your question is, so I've, currently I have an individual who came to me that they wanted me to be their mentor, and my first response was I had to understand what the requirement was, what they wanted to what they wanted support from, and I understood that they're in university and they're in their first year doing an IT program, and they needed more support regards to direction, what modules to choose, and what journey they can find themselves in to achieve a career ambition or a career goal. So I understood from that point that it was more like they needed more help regards to understanding what modules and what that modules can lead to on the job market. And I firstly said, listen, I'm currently being mentored. I said that earlier when I was introducing myself. I'm currently being mentored. I like to classify myself as a mentee, but I find myself in a position where I tend to support people a lot and I tend to coach them a lot, right? So currently I'm undergoing a formal competency process where I can formalize my mentorship journey. So I like to classify myself more as a mentee and more as a coach. So the thing, regards to that process with this individual, I'm currently supporting them regards to the modules, going through their coursework, coaching them regards to what options are viable to them. And currently I'm actually helping them get an industrial placement because they're moving on to their second year in university. So it's about understanding what context that person is looking for, the scope, regards to the expectations, and letting that individual know your standpoint. Because I said it from the word-go, I'm not a qualified mentor, but I can coach you and support you within that journey. And as I said before, I'm currently being mentored, and I'm currently looking to increase my competency on that perspective. So within that scenario, you have a lot of people who go, as someone said, they come to you and they're looking, they call you a mentor, and without explaining it to them, there are different types of mentorship, there are different types of support in an individual. So from my experience, that's one scenario I can use regards to how I've supported an individual, where I literally classify myself as saying, I'm not a mentor, but I can support you in a coaching environment to help you achieve your goal.
Okay. Thank you very much. There are some very interesting questions, but we'll come to that. There are some, so keep on posting your comments and we'll hopefully come to some of those comments and have that discussion. Samantha.
Okay, so the next bit, as you know, we based a lot of our discussion today is on this survey. So we asked about areas around being mentored through the formal and also an informal arrangement. And 58% said that they had not been mentored through a formal arrangement, which means, so guessing, is that, do we think that's kind of a decent amount? Does that feel right? Of that, so we can make that assumption. So that means that 42% have had formal training, have had this formal mentoring. And I'm going to assume this formal mentoring would have been through work, or maybe it's generally set up. But if it's formal, it's generally set up through, it's set up with a sort of a fixed period. Now, does that percentage seem low to you, or does this generally depend on the industry? And I think I'm going to throw this question to Jazz.
Yeah, in terms of the numbers, I think certainly in my profession, I think, you know, coming up the ladder, mentoring wasn't something that was thrown at us in terms of the curriculum. So I would think the percentage, I would say, is probably a low percentage in terms of those that have, you know, been formally approached. And I think, yeah, it's actually disappointing. So I think it just raises the fact that there's a lot of awareness, I think, that needs to be shared around mentoring, and probably something that should be part of, you know, other curriculums, or something that, you know, should be part of what you do on a day-to-day basis. And the other thing, sometimes maybe there's a bit of there may be a stigma, who knows, with mentoring, if people feel that they're needing support or needing help, or, you know, in terms of the perspective around mentoring. So I definitely think that number, yeah, is low. So I'm hoping in the next few years, and certainly I'd be interested to hear from the other areas, the other specialities, but certainly in medicine, I think it's been a deficiency for us. So it's something we to work on.
Yeah. I would like to interject here, Sam, that although the percentage for the formal mentoring was low, when it came to informal mentoring, it was 68%.
Yeah.
So we found out that, isn't it? We found out that people were having less formal mentoring than informal mentoring. Though you would have wanted it to be nearly 100%, but I mean, I do agree with yes, that it's formal mentoring especially is a bit low compared to informal mentoring.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting. But you see, the thing is that, like you said, when it came to informal mentoring, I found that quite fascinating, that the number was higher. So when people do it informally, the question is, what are people doing in this informal arrangement? We sort of, I don't know, sometimes I think Marvin mentioned something about, you know, people coming up and saying, well, you know, this is my mentor, that's my mentor. Do we really know? Because I'm not quite sure people really understand what they're supposed to be doing. Having said that, it is not a bad thing to have, you know, somebody looking out for you, somebody guiding you in one way or another. And so 68%, I thought, is a good thing. But it would be interesting. I'd like to know from the panel again, you know, what do you think people understand when people are saying that this is sort of informal? It could be your pastor, it could be the pastor's wife, the church elders. That's generally the sort of, when I hear about people sort of informal, I'm talking about, or a relative, a family friend. So if you've got a family friend who is mentoring you, say, for example, then there isn't this arrangement that they're going to, you know, there's going to be there. It's not ad infinitum. They're not going to be doing it all the time. It might be ad hoc. So every now and again, they're available to you, that sort of thing. So if we're talking about that versus having informal versus the formal, and I'm going to throw this one at Ruth to sort of put some more meat on that one for me.
So I think in our informal mentoring starts to, there are relationships that evolve. And so most people are talking about having received informal mentoring after the fact, because they're looking back at situations or conditions that they were in and recognizing now that that was what actually happened. And that's slightly different from formal mentoring, where the mentor relationship is formally set up with goals and objectives, with the mentee driving the relationship through what they need. I think informal mentoring could even be sometimes coaching, but people are just using this terminology interchangeably. And it happens. I mean, I've had a situation a number of times where there was a gentleman I worked with, and he had a partner who was thinking of moving into technology. And he said to me, "Oh, Ruth, can you have a chat with her?" And in a way, even though I wasn't mentoring her, she probably will look back now and consider it as mentoring. And it was informal because we carried on. We had lots of conversations around what she was trying to do. And I tried to signpost her in terms of, based on what she was trying to do, where she needed to go to help her. There was no formal relationship. But looking back now, I would call it informal mentoring, even though we never really set it up. And it came very casually. He and I are in a meeting, we have some discussions, and at the end of the day, he calls me and says, "Oh, could you help me? I have a partner who is interested in technology." It happens in many ways, even in the relationship in churches or societies. You'll find that there's someone with a little bit more experience and another, or someone who's encountered a situation before, recognizes there's a need, or someone highlights a need, and then it starts that conversation. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a good way to start building the recognition that there is a need, and it's a formal and informal way to support each other. I think it would be good if the numbers were higher, even for informal, and it would be great if we had higher numbers with formal mentoring. And I think this is what we're trying to do here. Highlight that actually this is happening, and there's a way to harness it and make it as part of the curriculum as mentioned, but also make it available. I know that many years ago, not that long ago, when my daughter was in her first year in university, she and a number of her colleagues set up what they called a mentoring relationship with a girls' school in Reading. And basically what they were doing was going into the school, identifying young girls like themselves who needed to have their confidence boosted. And these girls were just setting up activities with these younger girls, giving them opportunities to learn through play. And it was mentoring. But now looking back now, I recognize it as the beginnings of it. But when they were doing this in Reading University, they didn't really think about it. They just thought it was charity and it was a way of giving back. So yeah, I actually think there is probably more people, because people are looking back and considering what has happened and actually labeling it. It may be that it's much higher. It's what is being recognized. And I think using one-to-one, our platform here, to harness that and to grow it more and have more formal mentoring, more formal relationships it's a great thing. And I really believe that we're on a path to doing something wonderful.
I certainly agree with you. Susan, do you have any thoughts on this at all?
Yes. It's interesting that when we asked the question, so we had people saying they had more informal mentoring than formal mentoring. But when we asked the question, is any mentoring arrangement still ongoing? We had 66% coming back again to say no. So Inyang, I want to throw this question to you. I mean, as Ruth said, and some said, it's better to have some mentoring than nothing at all.
Yeah.
But we know that there are some pitfalls associated with this blasé, whatever, sounding board, when we can do it. We have been in positions of supervision, left the supervision for when you need me, come in. we've known how the issues, that we've had issues with that. So can you just a comment about this whole concept of informal mentoring, not bashing it, but what could be the pitfalls?
Thanks, Susan. I think, as we've touched on, and I think a lot of the panelists have touched on this, is about the sustainability and the quality of those informal mentoring. As Sam said, how many of those mentorings are still happening? I think you brought out the figures that very little still goes on. So that's what happens when you have informal mentoring, which is not, sometimes you don't feel accountable. Both mentee and mentor does not feel accountable.
Yeah.
It's just something you're doing on the go. Whereas when you have a kind of formalized arrangement, which is what one-to-one supports, and that's the beauty about one-to-one, and one of the things I'm really excited about this platform is the fact that we do things, we're all invested in actually seeing people succeed. So you have a more formal relationship in actually working with your mentee to help them achieve what they want to achieve. And that way, when you find somebody that you need to be accountable to, you will want to do those things because you want to have something to discuss with your mentor the next time you meet them. You don't want to still be at the same level you were when you started. So, which means that you are more likely to succeed if you have a formal arrangement, because your mentor will give you things to do, about what to talk about when you come the next time, and you'll be motivated to make sure that you achieve that. So you don't have that kind of arrangement with an informal mentoring. And people would say, okay, I've advised you now, and nobody, maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line, you don't even know what's happened to that person that you spoke to. So although informal mentoring is good, and I'm not bashing it in any way, but if people are wanting to actually make progress, we do recommend formal mentoring as a path to succeeding.
As a pathway. Thank you. I'll bring it back again to the mentors, just as a figure, an interesting one. When we asked, have you previously mentored or currently mentoring someone through a formal arrangement? 64% said no. However, 43%, so 57% were doing informal mentoring. So if you switched it over and if they were being mentored, they were being mentored more through an informal pathway. And if they were mentoring through an informal pathway. So I think that message is loud and clear. Let's talk about the benefits of mentoring. I think we've touched on a few. We've touched on a few points of benefits of mentoring. So we'll look at the benefits from a mentee point of view, because you all know that I'm a very avid supporter. You always hear me. Susan always says lifelong learning. I have experienced it. We all know that even when you're a mentor, you still get a lot of other people peer mentoring. Like I said, Dr. Takon here is my mentor, one of my mentors. And that comes to a question someone asked, that can you have more than one mentor? Of course, you can. You can have more than one mentor. It depends on your goals, and it depends on what you want to achieve. So you might have an industry mentor. You might have a mentor to look at your general holistic goals. Some people might be going through transition, and they might take a mentor to take them through life chapters transition. You might have a coach for specific an interview process or CV. So there's no reason why you can't have multiple mentoring mentors. And then there's another good question about, I think that's a little bit like a reverse mentoring, either an older person mentoring a younger person. One of our mentees, actually my coach, she looks at sort of my health goals, and she's much younger than me. And then again, can a man mentor a woman and vice versa? Why not? Ruth is a typical example of that. Ruth's story, the beginning of her journey was, and by the way, not from our background. Ruth, you're mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, my mentor, my first mentoring relationship, a formal relationship. It was a gentleman, and he was an Englishman, and he was amazing. And till this day, he stays as my mentor. As Susan said, mentoring is like you build lifelong relationships through it. And even though he was mentoring me professionally, he has gone on to mentor me as a young parent raising children, because he had older children than I had. And as I was going through some of life's journeys with my children, he had already been there. And I would say to him, so what did you do? I'm having this, what do you think? And I mean, it's the benefit of mentoring. If you there's a professional mentoring where you build huge networks, it increases your self-confidence. And when I talk about increasing your self-confidence, you start baby steps, and you find that as you grow in the mentoring relationship, the mentor is not redundant, but you, the mentee, are actually growing and bringing back into the relationship. And it's amazing, because as a mentor, I have learned and I have grown through mentoring, but as a mentee, I have grown immensely, and I would never knock it. I would recommend it. And I think being able to formalize it is very important, because then you can actually measure the benefits, because you can look at your objectives you set in the mentoring relationship, and it helps you to really recognize how you're growing in the relationship. And the issue about multiple mentors, as Susan said again, you can have a mentor for different things happening simultaneously in your life. It's perfectly possible, and actually it complements, because you find that what you're learning or gaining in one relationship, you can even translate it, and you become a mentor in that mentoring relationship because of what you're getting from another relationship.
Thank you, Ruth. There are two questions I want to ask about benefits. One, I'm going to ask Marvin, and then the other I would ask Yas. Marvin, you have always highlighted the benefits of you being a mentee. I know one of our mentors, who is now one of our key partners, mentored you, and you have experienced benefits. Can you just share some of the benefits of being a mentee? Can you just share that with us?
Sure. Hello. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So some of the benefits. So I'll specifically highlight one. So I think we've talked about Ruth spoke about having someone in a different industry, even mentoring someone in a different industry. In regards to my experience and what I've experienced over the years, the individual who mentored me and who still mentors me to date finds that he's in a different sector, right? He's from a more of a scientific background, right? But I was able to get a lot of benefits from his experiences by him directing me, even though I'm on a different path. I benefited off that. And even a focus point is my current job, right? Regardless of my qualifications, I needed a specific professional certification to assist me in obtaining my current job. Did I know about this? No, I did not. Who directed me onto this pathway was the person from a different industrial background, right? Through a network where he introduced me to have an engagement with someone who directed me towards, we had that conversation where I said, oh, why don't you look into this certification, right? Then I invested my time financially as well to attain this certification. As soon as I attained that certification, within a space of a few weeks, I literally landed my current job. Was I competent enough to have my current job? I was, but because the industry changes so much and sometimes the competency required to attain a role changes as well. Based on that engagement, based on that network, I was able to be directed to do the right qualification on a professional certification format, rather than me. I'm not bashing anyone who does a master's program or anything, but I was able to do a professional certification, which was cheaper, which was streamlined to what I was looking to attain, right? And how did I benefit of this? It was through my mentor, who opened me to a network that gave me the chance to engage, to attain that knowledge, to attain that certificate qualification to end up on this current journey. So there's so many stories, but I won't bore people with it. But the benefits of being mentored is brilliant from a mentee standpoint. And the individual I'm talking about has been with me it's been 12 years, it's been 14 years, right? And we've been on that path, right? So has it been ad hoc? Yes, it has been ad hoc. Has it been formalized? It hasn't been formalized too much where we've had objectives, but in specific projects or in specific activities, it has been structured where I've been given tasks to complete and report on, right? So having that journey is very beneficial. And what's made me love what we have as a platform, as a network is, before I even joined One-to-One, my competency was checked. I had to sign up for my resume. They had to look at my skill sets, and there's always questions of, oh, you need to complete some formalized mentoring qualifications, right? So One-to-One gives you that platform where you come into a network with people with different portfolios. You have Ruth from an IT background, you have Samantha from a financial background. So you come in with a variety of professionals that you can tap into, right? And that's what made me love this, right? So you come in a formalized process, you apply, you get interviewed. I was interviewed before I joined in. So everyone's competency record is available. So if you have a mentee who comes in and wants support, because we have a pool of data that specifies everyone's competency, we know where to direct mentees to, right? So that, I know we're not talking about, and that's the benefits of being mentored, but also with the platform I'm part of and the network we're part of, those are some of the massive benefits anyone who's interested to join can find themselves, can fit themselves into.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go to the questions on there are very interesting questions that I'm really burning for us to discuss. And yes, can you just tell us about what you feel, in your opinion, the benefits of being a mentor are?
Yeah, I think a lot of benefits. I think being a mentor, and as I mentioned earlier, and I think the other panelists have all alluded to, it's a bit of, you have growth for the mentor as well as the mentee, and certainly we're all learning, and I think everybody's mentioned that there's always something to learn. We learn from our mentoring experiences. You learn how to approach, how setting objectives, and I think the bit about mentoring, you can argue whether should it be mentee-based, mentor-based, and I think it should always be led by the mentee, in terms of what their objectives are, what their needs are, and I think being a mentor, the ability to be flexible, I think as well, in terms of how as you monitor the growth of the mentee, trying to be flexible in your approach. But I think it's opened, my eyes, generally speaking, in terms of accepting people, looking at the needs of the mentees, and planning along. And I think that's it's been very, very beneficial being a mentor. Other bits around networks, and I think that's what this network brings in terms of the resources available. I think even for mentors, in terms of the growth and development of mentors, and the other resources that are out there for us to develop as a mentor, and then obviously benefit that could benefit the mentee as well. So I think it's definitely something I encourage anyone who's interested to join and to promote, because I think it's a lifelong goal, continuous assessment of one's objectives, reviewing objectives, and seeing that long-term growth that hopefully will be a sustainable relationship, and that will be seen in terms of one's career development, emotional development, team working, team building, and I think the benefits are enormous, and in terms of interpersonal skills, and one can also take through that process. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I'm looking at the thread here, and there are very interesting questions around training. I think one of the big things that really we need to take home message is, to be able to do mentoring effectively, the helping professions. So we have mentoring, coaching, counseling, therapy, all those things are helping professions. To be able to know whether you are doing the right thing, you need some training, basic training. You need to do some course. You need to definitely link onto some course, because there's a very good question here by one of our guests who said that it's sometimes mentoring misconstrued. We're also asking guests, I'm also seeing guests asking whether isn't it important for people to have training in mentoring, and yes, it is. But when we looked at some of the reasons for why people hadn't had training, and then I'm sure, Samantha, you agree with me, quite a number of people said, one, they don't know why. Two, they don't know why they've not had training. They don't know enough of mentoring to think that they needed the training. And also they didn't have access training.
Yeah.
Access.
Yeah.
So there is sometimes a barrier also. So we shouldn't forget that there are external barriers.
Yeah.
And then there's a very good question here. How does one know whether they possess the 6 skills to be an effective mentor? What qualifies one to be a formal mentor, especially if it is not in the same professional interest? So mentoring, being a mentor doesn't mean you have to be in the same profession. It doesn't mean you have to be the same color. It doesn't mean you have to be the same sex. It only means that you have to be wanting to have the passion to help somebody. A mentor is a sounding board. A mentor is somebody who is interested in helping to see how somebody progresses. You are not in the driving seat. The mentee is in the driving seat. You're only walking with the mentee. You do not develop the goals of the prospective mentee. They do. And then you walk with them with those goals, with the skills. And I agree with you, whoever asked the question, Johan, I agree with you. Without the skills, and the only way you can build on those skills and develop those competencies is you have to have training. You know, this is why a lot of people start off with informal mentoring, and sometimes it's a hit and miss. It does fine, and sometimes it doesn't, because perhaps that skill is not there. So even though it's one of those, we use the term very loosely compared to coaching, it's worthwhile looking at if you're interested in really helping people through mentoring.
And Susan,
it doesn't mean you should go and do it. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you need to go and do a diploma. Yeah, or it doesn't mean you need to go and do a university degree. Yeah, I mean, what do you agree, Sam?
No, I completely agree, and I think sometimes people maybe we sort of get, some people are very natural at this sort of thing. Formal training, definitely, I think you definitely should go and get some kind of training so that you know how you're working with the individual. I think I remember when I first joined and I was talking to Susan, and like Marvin said, I also had an interview. Nobody comes through the doors without being checked out and asked this, because we need to know that when we are pushing out what we say we're doing, that we're coming at it from a good, that we have the right qualifications and the right sort of background. And I remember Susan saying to me that if you are mentoring somebody and you're telling them what to do and you're not mentoring, that's not mentoring. Your it's about guiding somebody. They've already got a plan. They know where they're supposed to go, and you're guiding them along with it. So if somebody comes in and if you're on the phone with them, or they're calling you every other day or texting you about that you're not mentoring them. Essentially, you're probably coaching them, or I'm just going to say you're spoon feeding them. And again, lifelong learning, which is another key phrase that is pretty much a one-to-one phrase that we learn when we join. It's just, you have to teach, you have to provide the person with a tool so you can use your mind to actually know where you want to go. And then you as a mentor, you're guiding. Completely different from coming in and telling them, do this, you do that. Oh, I don't think that's quite right. Or, and then also you learn from your mentee, mind you. It's a two-way process. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Just to the panelists, again, picking up from some of the questions, let's talk about BAME. Let's talk about background. Let's talk about gender. Let's talk about race. I'll start it off with you, Inyang. Is it something, when we as a BAME community Black community or minority other? Are there some considerations? Because some people say, well, you know, how are they going to understand my background? Yeah. So let's talk about that sort of thing, because it's an issue, isn't it? It's an issue about how do I know that the person that, if they are not coming from my background, are they going to have enough empathy, that empathy gap? You know, is there something inside me where I have a bit of unconscious bias? They may have a bit of unconscious bias as well, because some of the reasons for, you know, we asked some questions about the benefits of mentoring, and some had said that they did not benefit either as a mentor or a mentee. And one of the reasons were that they weren't really matched. Okay. And matching can be from industry to anything. But if we are looking at the issue around background, cultural background, how does this work? How do we overcome those kind of things? Those kind of issues? Inya, can we kick that off with you?
I think this is an interesting question, but I would like to say that it works both ways. So as a mentee, you know, first of all, as a mentee in the BAME community, I would like to say that it's not been something a lot of us had, you know, recognized the value of. And I think that showed up in the program, in the survey. So coming up from a mindset of somebody from the BAME community wanting somebody to give them answers, they might find it difficult when somebody's wanting to guide them, and they might see it as that not being productive. It's just because of our mindset of initially wanting somebody to give us those, map out the route I need to go. So again, that's where there needs to be a lot of education around, for both parties, mentee and mentor. And then also, as a quote mentor from a BAME perspective, our perspective might be, I just need to tell you what to do. So that's why it comes down to training, because naturally from our backgrounds, we're used to people telling us things or us telling people things. It's not something that comes natural to us.
Yeah.
So in our different communities, and I know, just knowing a lot of the communities, that's the way we have been trained and that's the way we've been brought up. So when we see somebody who wants to have that guiding, wanting us to bring out the tools, we sometimes might think that's, you know, the person is not being proactive. So there needs to be training from both sides. And this is where we really need a lot of education from our community. And also I've seen that sometimes when you dig deep into why are people from our community not actually taking advantage of everything that is available, or some of those things, and thinking, okay, I'm not making progress. Is it because of my race? Is it because of my color? Yeah. So we have that bias already. We're thinking that we're not it's there, but how much of it is about us not availing ourselves of the opportunities around? So sometimes we've shut ourselves off even before trying it, or we might have oh, that's not for me, you know, I'm never going to get there. So there's all these mindset barriers and attitudes. And I'm so thankful that in one-to-one, we have lots of people that we can actually look at and say, actually, they've reached there. And when we listen to the stories of the members of one-to-one, they're all very motivating, because they show you people who have gone through barriers, but actually been able to reach the top. And one of those things is about availing ourselves of those opportunities. So it's on both sides. And then ourselves, when we are developing as mentors, we need to, like I said, I needed to go through training to know how to mentor people properly. So we have to actually look at what is it. And because of that, I can mentor anybody from any race, any color, because those basic tools are available for me to work with them, is because you've got it. But if you didn't have it before, if I didn't have that, I would not be able to do that properly. So I do feel that we need to address this with changing perspective, changing attitudes, trying to discuss those unconscious biases that both parties have. It's not one side, and actually tackling things from that perspective in moving forward. So yes, it is there, but it still comes down to raising awareness, training, and helping people to dig deep and look at what they've got. within them that they can bring forward.
Thank you. Ruth, what are your views? I think what we're going to do is to just have this discussion because we all have probably approached it from different perspectives. So Ruth, what do you think, looking at BAME and mentoring?
I think a lot of what Inyang said resonated very well with me, but I also want to say that people need to, within the BAME community, there is not sufficient mentoring. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're here today, because recognizing that actually that needs to be addressed. But also, I think there has been a history of using terminology wrongly. So people might not necessarily be looking for mentoring when they come. They're looking for coaching. They're looking for training, to be told, to be educated, to be told what to do, which is what, and so that's where there is a gap in the mentee's expectations versus the mentor, because you've got a mentee who is using the terminology of mentoring, but is actually expecting to be told what to do, matched with a mentor who is in the mindset of mentoring. Then of course there's a complete mismatch, because the BAME person who is, I'm just using that example now, has a different set of expectations from the mentor. So it's going to be something that straight away, it may be construed that, oh, because it doesn't understand my concept, or doesn't understand my culture or my background or where I'm coming from. But actually, it's a complete gap in the understanding what the person is looking for versus what he's getting. So again, I think education, going back to what Inyang was saying, and teasing out what people really need, because with the helping services, as you said, some people might just need counseling or coaching or mentoring, but they might be using the terminology mentoring, and then you're giving them something that's not what they need, and therefore they think it's not good for them because they've used the wrong label. I also think that within our community, within the Black and ethnic minority community, there is there is a limited awareness of what may be out there as well, generally. So we're not always availing ourselves of that, of the service. So again, that might be one of the reasons why there is not enough penetration. And again, I guess that gives us a good platform why we're here today, one-to-one, and looking at delivering mentoring with that niche of Black and ethnic minority women and young men as well. And I think generally, as a mentor, listening skills, empathy is one of the things that is it's a skill you bring to the job, and then the training helps you to sharpen it. So with that, as you listen, you will find where there's a gap between the mentee's expectation and what you're doing, because they're looking for a different service. And then mentoring means sometimes you re-signpost the mentee to the right service they need. Because it might be that person says, I'm looking for mentoring, but actually, as you listen and you work with them, you find out actually the service you're delivering is not what they want. And you can either change it and explain and say, well, actually, you need coaching. So let's look at this, let's coach on this point. So that people start to get what they need and not have this misconception, which is a lot of times, in my opinion, where the gap is.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there's a very interesting question. It says mentoring and coaching is quite established. Sponsorship has been identified as an important factor for opening doors. What is the panelist view on sponsorship? Do the panelists have example of how they've sponsored someone or someone sponsored them for an opportunity in their career? So our guest is asking about sponsorship as opposed to mentoring and coaching, and what are our views about sponsorships?
Yeah, I think it's two totally different things, as you say, and I think mentoring in itself could be something that may not require any funding or any sort of financing. It's a bit about personal investment by the mentee and also by mentors, and obviously what we're about, everybody's doing in their own time, nobody's being funded. So in terms of opportunities for growth and development, the funding, doesn't have to be present, but equally, people want to be directed to go on either certain courses in terms of their own needs as a mentee. They may require certain needs, for example, going on courses of leadership, or again, in terms of interview skills. So again, these sort of things may require sponsorship. So it might be whether we have to try to direct them in other areas, or whether we can fund sponsorship, get sponsorship opportunities for them. But I think they're two slightly different things. Yeah, and also, as we grow as a brand and it's a charity, again, certain things require money, so it's all well and good to say, yes, we're doing it for free. But I think in terms of other aspects of development for specific aspects of mentees' needs may require, some degree of sponsorship, which we may not be able to address, in the forum itself, but we may be able to direct them to other areas where they could actually achieve sponsorship to achieve these other goals.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a very good question, because again, people can confuse that. The mentor opens the door. Mm-hmm. That is what mentors do. And whether, be opening the door doesn't mean that they are going to reach into their pocket, but they can signpost you. And in any case, some of this mentoring program, also part of the mentoring program involves internships. They could be in the future. Some companies might donate scholarships, volunteering opportunities, work experiences. So there are different things that can happen only because we've got the umbrella of being a registered charity. That was, we secured our registration a few days ago. I think it's a week ago. So we are now a recognized charity, registered charity in the UK. So that can open doors. That can open doors, hopefully, for our prospective mentees. Yes. I want to ask, I'm just looking at, there's a very interesting question here. I'm coming to you, Marvin. It's a very beautiful statement. Someone who transforms a rough diamond to a polished diamond. I thought that was very interesting. Thank you, Ivy. Someone who transforms a rough diamond to a polished diamond. Marvin, can you just make a comment about that? This guest is basically, that's a comment that she made. And what would you say to that in response?
Question. So transforming a rough diamond to a polished one. So if this individual has been listening, we spoke about structure a lot. We spoke about formalizing a lot, right? And regards to one-to-one, what we're trying to do is give structure, right? So you come in with expectations. We understand what expectations or what requirements you need. We try to work with this we try to work with the individual to understand what they need, put a structure in place, a plan, objectives, and how we reach those goals. So by the end of your journey, you come in with a plan and you achieve a target, right? Which will be measurable during that process. So after going through such a journey, so I'm not crying. after going through such a journey, it gives you that endpoint. So you probably come in with the aim to maybe find yourself in a different employment opportunity, or you come in with the aim of maybe going into a network that can give you a job opportunity. You come in, we give you that structure, take you through that journey, and at the end of your journey, you'll be able to see the results. And I spoke about how we have that formal structure. We check people's competency. So when you are assigned to an individual who can give you that journey, you have confidence that you're going to achieve results. So our network gives you that journey from, you might come in, I'm part of this process, right? Where I've come in and I've added a bit of structure to my journey as well. So you come in as an unrefined diamond, let me say it that way, and you end up being a polished product where maybe during the journey with one-to-one, you come and you achieve an internship program, you finish that program and then achieve a job opportunity. So just, we give you that formalized structure within our network. So I think, I don't know if I answered Ivy's question correctly, but I think.
So you agree with Ivy?
Yeah, definitely. So that's what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
right? Add value to your journey in regards to what your scope or what your specification requirements are. Okay.
Anyway, we are just getting to the end of this whole panel talk, and I think it would be good for all of us, our panelists, to, if you want to give one piece of advice about this whole mentoring, not about one-to-one mentoring, but mentoring and coaching, this sort of mentoring, helping professions, starting from Ruth, what would you, just quick, just one snappy piece of advice, yeah? Ruth?
I think mentoring is a lifelong journey, and it's something that allows you to grow whilst helping others to grow. I think it's a very exciting thing, and I would encourage everybody on this panel today to join in and explore opportunities, either as a mentor or as a mentee.
Thank you. Yas?
Yeah, I think it's a symbiotic relationship. That's what I think in terms of growth of mentee and mentor. In terms of long-term development, I think it's certainly worthwhile exploring for anyone who's interested, because I think the benefits are tremendous, and not just with one-to-one, but any other formal mentoring. So I think definitely be beneficial. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Inyang?
I just want to say it's very fulfilling to be part of people's journey and actually watch people achieve their goals. And one of the ways we can do that is becoming an effective mentor. So I would really encourage everyone, because we're never here forever, but we can be part of people's journeys and seeing people grow. So yes, please formalize mentorship, get the training, invest in other people, be a good mentor, and support mentees.
Marvin?
I think I advise anyone who can get themselves as part of a mentorship group to take advantage of it, because it brings a lot of opportunities. Being a network opportunity, being a development is very beneficial. So if you find yourself as part of any group, I think is a very advantageous process to take advantage of.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed it. Isaac, thank you very much for posting the link on sponsorship. It's a mentoring program, and yes, hopefully sponsorship will be something that we will be working around in the future. But I'm sure you've all, we've had a very lively talk. Thank you for posting your comments, because that's given us an opportunity to somehow engage and interact with yourselves. I think, Samantha, you have some last some announcements, isn't it?
Yeah. So, like Susan says, thank you so much to all of you for. I mean, I've been looking down there, and it's just like 54, 55 people, taking your Saturday afternoon out to join us. So, just letting you know that it's Black History Month. So for us, this has been quite, we've been doing some radio stuff with Akwentuful Radio every other week. So today we've done this. Next week, I think we're on Akwentuful Radio again in the morning from about, is it 9 o'clock till 10? 9 o'clock till 10. We have like a mentoring session, so we're doing that. And then following that, on the 24th, we'll have another panel talk like this. And the topic, so get this, the topic is, do people from Black and minority ethnic communities work 10 times harder to be successful in the UK? I would be delighted if you could, all of you come back again and bring other people with you, because we've got external people, we've got external panelists as well, and we've got some pretty strong voices out there. And it's a question, but it's not a question. It's not about a yes or a no, because we're talking about it. We know it's a yes. We know we work 10 times harder. So we'll be just exploring the various areas around it. If you've got opinions, please join us, come in and be a part of it. And then on the 31st, although we've been going, we're actually going to be launching, which will be, we've got different speakers in who are going to come in and talk about how they've managed to become quite successful through mentoring and all sorts. So there'll be stuff out there. Look out on our website as well, because we'll be putting things out there. We're putting stuff on LinkedIn, on Twitter, etc., etc. But thank you so much. Really, really pleased. Thank you. Susan, are you going to have the last word?
This is where we need to bring the music. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Hopefully you get your children and yourselves to join our network. So see you hopefully in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
As well. Thank you for your time.
Bye.
Yeah. Can you stay, please?
Okay.
Hey, Mike.
How's everyone is.